welcome to coverage of the World Magic Cup here from Indianapolis. My name is Marshall Sutcliffe, and I am joined by Zac Hill here in the booth. Hey, Zac.
Hey, how you doing, Marshall?
Great, and we are in here for Stage 2 on Saturday. This is round 1 of Team Constructed, and we are watching right now a little bit of block. So let's see who's playing these decks. We've got a list here of all the block. So on your left-hand side, we have Chinese Taipei, and that is Terry Chang, and he is going to be playing on the right-hand side against Uruguay. Now, they didn't actually have a block constructed or a modern deck quite ready to go.
Oh, really?
Yeah, ahead of time here. So this is something that, you know, maybe he hasn't played this deck a whole lot. That is Martin Castillo. So let's see what we have. We have the ubiquitous turn 1 Avacyn's Pilgrim on the left-hand side here for Taiwan, and on the right we have I don't know if this is a card that you like very much, but it's Borderland Ranger.
Oh, I think Borderland Ranger is a really underappreciated constructed card.
Zac's never turned down a 2-for-1.
I love a 2-for-1. I love mana consistency, and I think you can do a lot with a 2/2 body in this format. It's a human to sack to Falkenrath Aristocrat. It gets pumped with both Kessig Wolfrun and Gaming Township in certain decks. I think the card actually is like, it doesn't look like much, but it is really the glue that holds a lot of these decks together.
I think so too. We also see Abundant Growth on Terry's side, and it's, you know, that's a card that it feels like it could have a home in a lot of constructed decks, but we haven't quite seen it blossom in Standard yet, but it certainly gets a lot of play in block.
Absolutely, and it was actually designed from the inside, both Abundant Growth and Borderland Ranger, to be the mana bases of these block decks. Something it's pretty obvious when you look at it, is that Innistrad has dual lands for the opposing color combinations, but it doesn't have dual lands for allied colors. In fact, it has colorless lands. So we wanted some green ways of putting together a decent mana base.
Okay, yeah, it looks like you guys nailed it. All right, so we have dueling Borderland Rangers, and I don't see a red source yet.
Well, there's the Abundant
He just
Growth,
says take it.
Sure.
Oh yeah, right. I guess he has all colored sources. Yeah, good call. So that's Terry Chang.
And we actually saw one of the Pilgrims bite the dust to a tragic slip early.
All right. Life totals are 18 for Chinese Taipei and Uruguay, so 20.
Token. I don't have it. Wolf.
Oh,
we're looking for a wolf token.
22? 18?
Right, well, that is like you were saying. I mean, one of the things that comes up is a lot of these players did not have. I mean, it seems like some of these decks together, you didn't know if you were going to even make it this far.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can imagine it's like, okay, well, I'm not walking around with a stack full of tokens for this deck that I may or may not end up playing.
Yeah. All right, so the mid-range battle begins with a Huntmaster of the Fells. Kind of a classic mid-range card at this point. I know it's not that old of a card, but you know, it's just exactly what you want to do if your deck is meant to go mid to long game, grind everything out.
Yeah, and I remember when the card came out, you know, people were saying, like, are you really going to...
Yeah, sure.
Are you really going to just pass the turn and not do anything just to shock a guy and make your guy bigger? It's like, it turns out that,
Yeah, that is exactly what you do. Now, we see Wolfear Silverheart. That's one of the breakout cards from Pro Tour Avacyn Restored. It's going to pair up. This makes a lot of sense. This is why we didn't see a trade of the Borderland Rangers. And all of a sudden, it's a 6/6 attacking now.
A 6/6 Borderland Ranger, an 8/8 Wolfeer Silverheart.
On the blocks?
Yeah. No, I mean, Wolfeer Silverheart is an absurdly powerful card.
Is that a Nagel card?
I'm not actually sure who designed it. I think it may have been Dave Humphreys.
Really?
The guy that's current numbers. A lot of it was a sort of FFL collaboration. I mean, we knew we wanted Soulbound to be a mechanic that showed up and constructed. And to do that, you have to make cards like Wolfeer Silverheart.
Card comes down here with Wolfeer Silverheart. So yeah, we're seeing a lot of the same stuff.
Now, it looks like Cheng has a Sever the Bloodline in his hand to take care of the opposing Silverheart.
Which will,
but
unfortunately.
Exactly. It's kind of a drawback of playing that card. It is symmetrical.
Yeah, but it is a really, really powerful card in this form. I don't know why he set those on top of each other, the Wolf and the Borderland Ranger. Those are not soul bonded. They are not paired.
Yeah, maybe it just looks prettier. On the other hand, you can obviously use Sever the Bloodline on, I believe it's paired with Huntmaster of the Fells?
It is.
To break the pair, and obviously having an 8/8 Silverheart and a 6/6 Borderland Ranger, more powerful than the simple 4/4 Silverheart, and that's exactly what we see.
That is exiled, by the way. All right, there we go. He must have heard me.
You have superpowers. You can get into their minds.
Apparently.
All right, and the tragic slip. Exactly what you need there.
Well, is it though? Nothing's died.
Oh, that's a good point.
Something has to have gone to the graveyard for Tragic Slip to activate, and he did not realize that.
Oh,
He
like
did
you
kill a
said.
creature. It just didn't go to the graveyard.
Right. That is huge, and but the thing is, targeting it is a legal play.
It
so
is.
He's stuck with having made that decision.
Right, and this is high-level play. There's no take-backs. You know, you're not going to get a chance to take that kind of thing back. And that's the kind of mistake that you would really hope to avoid having a teammate beside you as well. You know what I mean? To remind you, because sometimes you get in your own brain and you get your own thinking, but it's nice to have somebody to tell you. So they're going to have to step it up as far as the teammate help goes and prevent that kind of mistake.
I honestly think what happened there is you sort of get ahead of yourself.
Exactly.
You know, you just want to battle for 14 damage, and you're just getting excited. You know, you don't stop and think about what actually happened on the board.
Why did he just set that on top of the borderline? That is not fair.
Yeah, I don't. I mean,
he should
technically, I guess you don't have to align your creatures.
There, so he separated them because it's a little. It's just hard to tell, like to read the board state cleanly.
Oh yeah,
if he sets them on top like that, I think it's nice to have them separate.
No, I couldn't agree more.
He asked if how many cards he has in hand, and he has 2. Now, there's one key card in both of these matchups that completely breaks the mirror. And no, it's not TCG Key Mirror Breaker. It is, in fact, Bonfire of the Damned, and I believe both players have one in their hand.
Yeah, and of course, in your hand is not where you want Bonfire of the Damned to be.
There is another spot where you'd ideally like to have it.
You would like to be able to resolve Brainstorm in this format.
Yeah.
With that wolf?
All right. So we see another Huntmaster come down, gain life. He does pair it this time, though, with he does pair that one, I should say. Yes, yeah.
Right.
He keeps thinking that he's paired it, but it's paired with the Huntmaster of the Fells, not the Wolf. He could have paired it with either.
Yeah.
And then he's going to follow up with Avacyn's Builder.
I'm almost like, if I'm my opponent, do I just like want him to put those together and like just make a big mistake thinking his cards are paired? Like, at some point, I don't know. Like, I don't know what you do about that. Right?
I mean, I can see that there would be some upside to that, but I don't think that that's really the axis on which you'd like to beat your opponent.
Right, no, that's certainly fair. Yeah, miscommunications are powerful, like we saw at Tragic Slip. All right, yeah, and so he keeps being very deliberate about where the soul line took place.
The teammate keeps insisting that he sets them correctly.
And that is a nice thing to have the teammate there for.
Yeah. Now, one thing about Bonfire of the Damned is that it's interesting because it's not actually if you're the last one to cast it, you actually want to be the first one to cast it. Because what usually happens is you get a bunch of damage in, you clear off a bunch of their guys, and then you hit them with your team, and that's the big swing.
And it's interesting you mentioned that. I was talking to Peter Viren, who was playing Mono Red Trading Post in Standard the other day. And yesterday at a deck tech, in fact, and even though he was mono red with a ton of sweepers, he wasn't playing Bonfire. You know, even though that card was one of the top 5 cards in the format in Standard, according to Brian Kibler. But the reason he said for that is that Bonfire is at its best when you have your own threats and you take advantage of the fact that it's not symmetrical.
Yes.
You want to cast it and then attack and kill your opponent. It's very inefficient, comparatively speaking, if you're just using it reactively.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense to me, actually.
Yeah. So that's it was mono red playing Blasphemous Act over Bonfire in Standard. But,
because that dealt with some threats that he couldn't get to the mana for normally.
Exactly. It dealt with Titans. It dealt with Silverheart if Silverheart was a thing, etc. It dealt with Elishnorn. But clearly when you have Wolfer's Silverheart and several creatures on the table, you don't want to have to wrath your own side of the board too.
Exactly. So we've got a pretty tense part of the game here. This is Terry sitting on 8 life, and he's going to have to make. There's some fairly important decisions to be made with Martin here. I mean, math is being done.
Yeah, and I mean, it's, you've got a Huntmaster back on defense, capable of killing anything but the Silverheart. If the Silverheart, if the thing the Silverheart's paired with, the Borderland Ranger, dies, then the Wolfer Silverheart itself gets smaller. These are really complicated board states when continuous effects are sort of checking in real time.
That's
You know,
right.
It's very easy to make a mistake that kills a lot more of your creatures than you really intended.
Yeah.
Further, yeah,
So I
keep
think
going.
we're actually just looking at Jund versus Jund here.
Okay.
They're both running the Avacyn's Pilgrim.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we do see one planes.
There is a plane. So what is that plane's for? Oh, let's look at his mana base. I bet you he's got.
Oh, it's for Restoration Angel. He's
Oh, he
got
does
4
have it? Where is
copies
it?
of Restoration Angel. Very
So
first
he's
thing on
so
the deck
he's
list.
actually running 4 colors then,
Right.
because he's running Tragic Slips as well. All right.
That's a bold mana base.
It is indeed.
But I guess when you have access to Evolving Wilds, Borderland Ranger, and Abundant Growth, 4 copies of Abundant Growth, it's not that hard to just start adding more colors to your deck.
And you can also go grab a land with Borderland Ranger. Now, I have a question for you, Zach. I see one land here that doesn't produce colored mana. Do you think that's pushing the greed factor too far? Or do you think it's about correct still?
Kesset
yeah, go ahead.
Wolf Run is an extraordinarily powerful card. And I think maybe you could even put it into a spell slot, but I think 1 copy is probably acceptable. I mean, then again, I'm maybe the greediest man alive, so,
So I shouldn't be asking you.
I'm certainly not objective about this.
All right. It certainly is a powerful card, though.
My turn.
So it looks like a wolf just hit the bin. I'm trying to figure out what Castillo's trying to do. And bonfire up.
That's exactly what he's trying to do.
Well, he's
it's from
bonfiring off
front,
the
from
top,
front, from front.
but he put the card into his hand, it looked like.
No, he's just bonfiring it from
he's
hand.
just
He's
casting
doing
it.
it for 2. He's going to bring him to 6, and he's going to swing in with
You're
the
down to
team.
6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell if it was intended to be Miracle or not.
No, and actually, that same question was on there.
okay.
Was posed at the actual thing. All right, here's a Restoration Angel right in time. Blink
Wow.
your
What a
Wolfear
blowout.
Silverheart, repair it with the Angel, and set up some massive blocks. So do you just trade off here then?
Yes.
Ah.
Oh, so there was
The
a Borderland
bonfire
Ranger that had taken 2 damage from the bonfire, and now that it's unpaired, it dies.
现在是7嘛，
Yeah, I think it's worth doing that to stay alive.
To
for
stay
sure.
alive. Well, I mean,
这是88，
这个该了哈。
就是这样子了。
yeah, this seems like this is pretty easily the best play. It leaves him with the Restoration Angel against a Borderland Ranger,
Right.
and yeah, he's basically he can stabilize from here.
No, it
that was
doesn't leave
paired?
him with a Restoration Angel.
Sorry,
right?
so it doesn't because that Humaster Fells is paired, but then the pair is broken when the Wolfear Silverheart
to 8.
dies, and since it has 3 damage on it, or 5 or 7 or whatever from the
right.
Restoration Angel, it also does.
No, Huntmaster off the top is probably the best
Ooh.
thing you could do except for Bonfire in that situation.
That's quite good.
All right. And when life totals are this low, too, the 2 life points matters a lot, and the 2 damage you can deal when you flip your Huntmaster also very important.
Yeah.
So, extremely good top deck for
Sá
Ching at this point in the game.
Yeah, sure.
He's absolutely fine having a Huntmaster of the Fells against opposing Avacyn's Pilgrim. He's definitely got to be looking to just pass the turn and gain even more advantage and have some more size on the table. Another relevant factor is he still has to sever the bloodline in his graveyard. So if Castillo casts anything too threatening, Ching only needs a couple more mana in order to take care of it for free from his graveyard.
I think he has enough now.
It's hard for me to I keep wanting to think those abundant growths are fertile
Is that
grounds.
second one? Oh yeah, so I think he is at 6. I think you're right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
No,
Right.
but
So
And
one
one
more
card
mana.
still in his hand.
And he needs another black source?
I
Nope, he's got
put in my
plenty of
hand.
colored mana thanks to those things.
Abundant growth is a deceptively powerful card. It gets basically, in exchange for playing a turn 1 ETB tapped land, it fixes your mana for the rest of the game. It's really easy to underestimate cards that improve your mana base and give you those marginal edges, but it also helps you out with consistency because it's a cantrip.
Yep.
Really one of the defining cards of the format.
It's a beautiful card.
Claro. Sí,
We have a little update from one of the other side tables. So in the modern part of this team clash, Quo is up 1-0 over Bagari. So he has been crushing it all weekend, and he continues to do so for Getty, but he hasn't won the match yet.
I mean, you've got to think that Tsuxing Quo at this point is just one of the best players on the planet. I mean, he's helping his team. He's led them to a dominant performance in this tournament. Of course, he's level 8 pro. That's as good as you can get.
0-0. Mano,
We see
nada te fe.
Huntmaster of the Fells staring
Yeah.
down 2 Borderland Rangers and a single Avison
我认真。
Pilgrim. 1
Your
card
turn.
in hand for Chang. You've got to be just hoping you're going to draw a bonfire at some point.
I mean,
Shows he
aren't
did.
you always?
It's like the more turns tick down, the more the game
Ooh.
goes on. You know you're going to get to it eventually.
Yep.
It's why you play it in your deck.
That's right. So there's a decision that needs to be made here. I see a Garrick in hand for Terry Ching, so he can play that, or he can flash back, because he also has another land. He can flash back his Sever the Bloodline to take out both
3两张打他。
Borderland Rangers. He
If
can
it-
also just do nothing.
That also true. Yeah. I mean, as enticing as it is to flip Huntmaster of the Fells, I think you really have got to want to get a 2-for-1 off of your Sever and still have access to those cards later. I mean, Garrick could make a Planeswalker and he's got to gum up the board, but you don't really want to be blocking with that Huntmaster of the Fells. And at 8 life, you've got to really respect the threat of 5 power on the board.
Right. Yeah, transforming Huntmaster here represents a pretty nice little swing. So let's see what he ends up doing here. He is just going to go ahead and
He's gonna
flash
go for the
back.
Sever.
Yeah, I kind of like that play.
I like the Sever. I like being able to get on the aggressive right here and attack. I mean, gets Castillo down to 4
Yeah,
life.
yeah.
That's lethal with a single attack plus just passing the turn.
Right.
Now, of course, Castillo needs to cast a spell here, or he's going to flip the Huntmaster on his own turn.
Que no está mal, ¿no?
Falconwrath Aristocat, very vicious right here. Aristocrat.
Wow.
I did watch the Aristocats recently. I guess that's why it's on my
Man.
mind.
2-turn clock here. Oh, it's the one that we
Wow.
hoped for.
He's,
And that
Itin mo na
is
tao.
enough. A
Itin mo
miracle
na naman.
bonfire up the top wins it for Terry Ching. Dramatic fashion.
I believe the term they use is overkill.
I think that killed just about right. Wow.
Well, a big top deck from Castillo's side of the table, but over the top with Bonfire and the Aristocrat just didn't matter.
Like you said, that's why he runs it in his deck, right? You know?
Exactly. Cedric Phillips says you draw a card every turn.
Ultra Pro is a leading manufacturer of trading card game sleeves and deck boxes. If you're looking for official Magic 2013 portfolios, card storage boxes, deck boxes, sleeves, and playmats, Ultra Pro has you covered. For more information, visit wizards.com/magic merchandise. Wow, that was a dramatic finish there. As you can see, we're holding up the other table so that we can make sure we cover all the action for you at home.
We're just so nice like that.
We are nice like
Oh,
that.
man.
Plus, you and I just
So
like to watch
considerate.
even more Magic.
Yeah, you're right. Really rough life
Yeah.
we have here.
Yeah, you and I have a real rough life.
So what are we seeing right now? Is this a game of Modern? Yeah, we see
I
a
believe that's an overgrown
on the first
tomb, so
turn.
this looks like Modern here.
And
And a turn 1 Thoughtseize. And we're going to get a chance to look at a real hand here. So there's a Path to Exile, there's 2 lands, a Remand, a
lot of
Tectonic
lands.
Edge.
Path to Exile, Remand, and a Magician. Okay, let me think.
And that's like we were talking about, in Legacy, discard just
Snapcaster.
a lot less powerful because of Brainstorm, but in Modern, you just get to take their best card.
You do, and he is going to take the Remand. So my initial guess here is Jund versus red, white, blue, tempo, control, aggro,
Sure.
whatever you want to call it.
That makes sense. And taking the Remand there is absolutely devastating because it turns the Snapcaster Mage off until turn 4 unless he gets an early
your
path
turn.
target. Obviously, pathing very early is not when you want to cast that card.
Right.
And getting the Remand out of the game is huge because now he can play out his threats on the turn.
Right. So Celestial Colonnade comes down.
Nice.
And just a kind of a slow start here. And he's going to play Dark Confidant, affectionately known as Bob, and that's going to generate him a huge advantage. The cool part about this play is that even if it gets Path to Exile, he still gets a card back out of it.
Right.
And Jund loves to get a bunch of mana going too.
It's a really interesting question whether you path here. I mean, I think you have to.
You
One
kind of
the-
have to, right?
one of the easiest ways to lose a game of Modern is to just let your opponent sit there with Dark Confidant and draw an extra card.
You know, it's funny because I didn't have any experience playing with her against Dark Confidant until Modern came around, and I had to learn that lesson the hard way. I had Lightning Bolts in hand and was like, what's the big deal? You know, and let it live, and I paid the price dearly.
My favorite is when people's plan became, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to kill him with his own Dark Confidant. You're like,
now, I'm
glad
that.
you think that. Oh, it happens.
You know,
sure.
like if I've got 9 damage or something in my hand, you know, I've got Bolt, Snapcaster, Bolt, then that's a plan, right?
Right.
But yeah, otherwise, if I'm not close, then you need to bolt that guy.
I mean, I've definitely
Or he
played
does
it.
not path it, maybe during upkeep. No, he lets him draw his card.
I mean, I can understand not wanting to give the Jund player an extra land, too. I mean, that's certainly, you know,
I
is
can
reasonable.
too, but this is a risky line. Like you said, man, I think that just like as a general, I wouldn't call it a rule, but as a general idea, you do not want to let that guy survive. Now, we know he's got, Suzy & Co. has tons of answers for it in his deck as well. He's got Lightning Bolts and
I take 3.
Lightning Bolt plus Healing Salve. What's it called?
Lightning Helix.
Thank you, Lightning Helix. Spaced on that one.
I mean, he also gets to leave up Remand mana this way, which is hugely important. We see Rigetti has access to Liliana the Veil, which would be completely devastating here if it resolved. So I think like giving him an extra card just so you can remand a spell makes some amount of sense. But again, I mean, you're just incrementing the card advantage that you're getting defeated by if you let that Confidant sit there. So if it were me, I would just allow his first spell to resolve and say, whatever, I'll remand something later. At least I don't have to deal down a Confidant. I mean, the other thing you're doing is taking 2 damage.
Right.
You know, and as we talked about, mana bases.
Your favorite, he had drawn a remand, so it's going to keep him alive. At least for another turn. Let's see here.
Certainly, you've got to be frustrated if you're Rigetti having Thoughtseize to remand and get hit with another remand.
Yeah, 2 turns later.
Yeah, I mean, you still can't be too upset about attacking with Dark Confidant and getting to pay 0 life to just draw a card.
He's going to read Bob. Now, I got a question for you. So let's say that. So why would you do that during your turn?
Because you don't want the upkeep trigger to go on the stack and let him draw an extra card.
Because it's going to go on the stack no matter what.
Actually, that might even be why he read the card, trying to decide if he could let him, if he could wait till his opponent's turn.
And avoid drawing, and have him avoid drawing a card. So he's going to get to untap with an extra mana as a result, but he's not going to get an extra free card off the top.
Right, it's basically a Lotus Petal versus the card off the top of his deck.
Okay.
And I think in a format like this, you'd rather your opponent have Lotus Petal.
Lotus Petal sticks around too.
Well, no, but the fact that you get, he's going to get the land that sticks around anyway.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Right,
yeah.
but he gets 1 extra mana for 1 turn.
Gotcha.
Me saca el doble negro o me deja sin rojo. La Tectonic la tiene en la mano.
Looks like we've got Spell Snares, Snapcaster Mages, and a Sword from Sushi. And no idea what's in Rigetti's hand, although I thought I saw at least 1 Lightning Bolt.
Okay.
And of course the Liliana that had already been remanded.
No juega montaña.
So the question, you know, for Rigetti is, does he just slam Liliana again? Just, hey, run it out there, see if it resolves. I mean, we see a blue and an any other colored mana source here on Suji and Ko's side.
No montañas in the deck.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you just do, right?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you certainly don't want to use your land before you have to. What this game's going to be about is whether those Snapcaster Mages are ever able to get some value.
Yep.
Right now, he's not going to walk into Snapcaster Mage plus Remand because he's already seen the Snapcaster Mages.
Right.
But you can just play them as 2/1 creatures with Flash and put a sword on them if Rigetti's not careful. You're going to be able to rebuy your Path to Exile, of course. But a lot of this game is going to just be about value. You've already seen the Planeswalker, and Path to Exile is not going to do anything about that.
All right, so he's going to lead with a Bob here, I think, that he just drew it, or maybe a Goyf. Either one's going to get Spell Snared.
Right.
Spell Snare that, but then he can go land Liliana and actually have it.
Right. And I think he's
just going to go for a Goyf.
Well, he definitely wanted him to tap that land, but I'm not sure if he has a land in his hand that comes to play untapped.
He did not. Apparently, he had one at all, because I think he's passing a turn here. Okay.
Right.
Yep, you were right. No land in hand.
So his hand is Jund Charm, it looks like. Maelstrom Pulse, Lightning Bolt, Liliana. Interesting suite of removal spells.
That is interesting.
You know, Jund Charm gives you flexibility to hose opposing graveyards if you're up against any of the graveyard-based combo decks.
Or a Snapcaster.
Or, yeah, very specifically Snapcaster Mage. And, of course, instant speed Pyroclasm is never going to go wrong. I wonder how often you use the Burrington Bombardier ability and just put 2 1/1 counters on your guy.
I think only when you're about to win the game from that.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, it's 2 extra damage to a player.
Certainly, if like it's the best possible way to get into a Tarmogoyf trade.
Yes.
Or by trade, I mean you absolutely blow your opponent out and you're going to deal them 2 more damage the rest of the game.
Now, we can't actually see Quo's graveyard on camera, but he does actually have a pretty extensive graveyard.
Yes,
there's
he
a Path
does.
to Exile, there's a few lands in there, there's a remand or 2.
3 plus your instant. 4/5.
And
So it's a 4/5
Let's
right
put a
now.
A
Land,
very
creature,
sizable threat.
instant, sorcery.
Now, Rigetti knows about the Snapcaster Mage plus Path to Exile.
He does.
But certainly, he can't really do anything about it. Quo can do that whenever he wants to,
No,
so
but
he
I'm
might
not-
as well attack and see what happens.
And Quo's not going to do it right now
Igual
because he wants to be able to leave
la
up
mía del Z.
Snapcaster Remand
No,
or
pero quiero-
Snapcaster
Capaz
spell
que si
snare,
castigo
right?
algo,
Well, and Snapcaster
respuesta
Remand's
mucha
pretty
la-
devastating here because
la
you get to
fea
attack
esa.
for 2, get on the
Porque
offensive
jura
with
que no tengo
Rigetti
el
at
otro.
13 life, and then
Jura
set
él.
up Snapcaster Path at your
Liliana.
leisure. By the time you do that, the Liliana that you already know about is just not that big of a threat because you already have 2 creatures on the table with 2 power. And then in order to edict you, Liliana would have to go to 2, and you could just attack it with your remaining Snapcaster Mage.
So he just ran it right in there,
Yep.
and he gets it remanded. That happens, and then he's going to play land post combat here.
Sí, macho.
Now, Raging Ravine is very important right
It
now.
sure is.
Ahora le doy un tate quieto.
Ooh, there's a card that I mentioned in our little pre-game ramble there.
Oh, my
A Restoration
visual.
Angel.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
no,
wow.
Oh.
And this is
Bueno, me
exactly
dijiste
what,
antes que lo castigue.
And he
This is
didn't
exactly
leave his
what you
red
wanna
mana
set
source untapped either, so if he does have
Seven.
a bolt in his
Discard.
hand, he's made a mistake, and he does have
Oh,
a bolt
yeah.
here. Do you see how
Paso.
his Blood Crypt or whatever, no, what is that called? I think it's Blood Crypt, right? Is tapped, and he's left up the wrong mana.
he could have tapped
Yes.
Overgrown Tomb, Swamp, and Forest.
Yes.
That is a huge blowout.
It's a
for
huge
Rigetti.
blowout.
I think
He
I'm a
loses
seven.
a card
I
out of the
prefer
deal,
nine,
and now Quo gets to have a threat on board that is tough
Should be
for
nine?
him to deal
Okay.
with. The bolt will still kill it in this case, but man, he has all of his mana untapped.
Right, protection from black and green is what you want against a Jund deck.
Niño que soy yo.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't think
13,
he was trying to
9.
represent anything with the black mana.
11-9. I think you moved a
Ah.
-2 from one column to the other.
11, 9.
We have a little bit of a
Okay.
life total discrepancy, but they're getting it
okay.
corrected.
Wait. I already
He
discarded
did
this.
discard it.
Restoration Angel Snapcaster Mage on top of that he is taking a trip to Value Town.
He sure is. I mean, right now, if he untaps and goes for like the lightning bolt on the
My turn?
Snapcaster Mage, we could see Restoration Angel blinking the Snapcaster Mage, which saves it, and then also gets the Path to Exile
Ahora,
active from the graveyard to kill the Tarmogoyf.
Podría
Like,
intentar sopapearle
right,
la
we could see
papirola
a
con esto.
huge swing.
Yeah,
¿Cuál
and
primero?
suddenly that's
Yo le haría
what,
esto
7
primero.
out of the 9 damage he needs to
Porque
attack
si
for lethal.
no
Yes.
entra,
And another card's getting
Me
pitched,
cae.
and he has all his mana up. I
Tenemos
mean,
sopa, porque si
this
no
is
entra, le
getting
puedo
really,
tirar
really
esto.
ugly for Nicholas
Estamos de
Rigetti
acuerdo.
very, very quickly. He's going to need to come up with something very powerful. So it looks like it's going to be the bolt to lead things off. So Quo's now got to decide if he wants to make the play that we just described, or if he wants to leave Snapcaster for the other
Yo digo,
remand.
bueno,
So
que no
what
falla.
goes wrong
Somos dos
if
cerebros y ninguno
you,
deja
if you
roja.
Restoration Angel your mage? What are you concerned about?
I mean, the card that we know about, we being on Quo's side, is Liliana.
Sure.
And I don't think that Liliana matters that much here. If he plays it and edicts you, then you sacrifice your Snapcaster Mage, and it's not a huge deal because
Right.
you still have your Angel.
right, and his
Three
Tarmogoyf
cards.
is gone because you're going to path it when you flicker the Snapcaster
One's
Mage.
Liliana.
So you don't care about
Beautiful
Liliana. You might
Liliana.
even let it sit on the table for a turn
Yeah,
so that he
just
doesn't play
para el
another
Zeta.
one and edict your Restoration.
Exactly, and he has to make himself discard a card, which isn't a big deal. All right, so he is going to go for this
I
play.
mean, certainly
I'm
relevant.
happy.
He has a card in his hand.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, stop, he says. All right, so this is on the stack.
What is he able to do in
maybe
response?
does he have a
Así es,
Terminator or
no,
another Bolt?
He's got Maelstrom Pulse, but it's not an instant.
It's not an
He's
instant.
got,
Vamos, vamos.
I think, Liliana, and is it
El
Jund
Pacto Exile.
Charm in his hand, or is
Another
it another
Jund
Lightning?
Pero igual me parece que tengo que comprar las palas respuesta
It's
porque
very-
me da
I-
sopa
it's-
pearla
it's
por
hard
Oh,
for
we
me
dentro.
to tell.
we've got a couple of angles here that we're trying to get
Entonces,
to see what he's got, but it looks like he's just gonna say yep.
Yeah.
All right, make sure that that's not equipped anymore though. It does
Yeah,
look a
it
little
looks
bit like
equipped. It is not supposed to be equipped.
it.
That
Right.
is
So
for sure.
we've got to remember that it's not. And there we go.
y le pego.
Judge helpfully stepping.
Judge says, "No, that looks like it might be equipped." So we'll undo that.
All right, and he does in fact do the play we were talking about, path to
right.
exiling Tarmogoyf.
I mean, this is a very, very strong play for Quo.
That is one of the most devastating restoration angels I have ever seen.
Yeah, that was really, really huge. Now, Righetti's free to resolve his Liliana if he wants.
¿Te das cuenta? Perdí por
Oh,
joder.
sure.
Just doesn't do as much
Yeah,
here.
it just doesn't seem very good right now.
So Quo's just got to be cognizant of not losing to that raging ravine. You know, not
But,
getting.
and he's got a tectonic edge,
Sí,
so he just
cayó,
needs
cayó.
to make sure to leave it untapped along with a mana
There you
despair.
go.
But you're right. I mean,
Really good
that certainly can kill him in a couple of attacks if he's not careful. I mean, we already saw one mistapped mana being a very, very huge cost.
Yes.
So, I mean,
Now,
it's something it's easy to forget about.
I caught a glimpse of the other card in Righetti's hand, and it's a Blood Braid Elf.
Wow.
Yeah, so that is
Cards?
one way to dig yourself back out, but he's got to be alive to do it. So he's at 9 right now. I don't think he's going to be facing lethal next turn, although it's also not impossible, and now it is. But, you know, because there is still Celestial Colonnade lurking over there.
That is true. Now, he does
So
not,
he
in
has
fact, cast
4,
Blood Braid Elf.
5, 6. He has got lethal right here, doesn't he? If he has a land? Oh, he didn't do it. Wasn't that lethal? Or?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And Righetti's at 9.
So he decided not to go for the win on that one because of something that costs 1 black mana.
Yeah, I
And
guess
he's playing
that's-
around Tragic Slip, apparently.
yeah, I mean, I guess.
He also might just have forgot about his Celestial Colonnade. I don't know. You know, I just have. It's impossible for me to think exactly what he's doing. I think I would have just gone for it there myself. He does have Remand and Snapcaster in hand, so he kind of has. I think that he just feels like no matter what he does, he's got 6 mana. He can play 2 Remands this turn, and it kind of doesn't matter anyway.
Yeah, and he extends
and the
that.
hand gets extended.
Being able to keep up Remand
Lightning Bolt in
Snapcaster,
la
I mean,
mano.
if nothing
I-
else, you can gain
maybe
more
I played
information that
like
way
this.
about your opponent's
De
deck.
Liliana,
Okay.
and I had the Lightning Bolt.
I mean, that was game 2, so like if you
Oh,
kill him,
sure.
that
Yeah, well,
information doesn't have as much use to you. But still, I don't know. I might have
I'm
just
trying
gone
to
for
come
it.
up with
This is fun.
something.
But at the
I
same time, I don't know that he
know.
can lose either way.
Yeah,
You know what I
sure.
mean? Like if he can play 2 Remands that turn, I can't really think of too many sequences. All right, looks like
right.
we're back on table A, I believe, which is the block
pedazo de ñoño,
constructed table.
All right.
Yes,
It
oye,
seems
por
like
el
every
equipo
match we watch
beneficiado.
is all about Borderland Ranger all over the place all
Yep.
the time.
And 2 of them just got exiled here.
We've already seen the Sever the Bloodline on Borderland Ranger
We
play.
have.
Now we've seen it from the other side of the table.
We have indeed.
不要乱叫。
All right, so we've got a 5th
Tahiti.
land for the Wolfer's Silverheart in his hand, but it's an Evolving Wilds that comes into play
No tiene
tapped.
boca, tiene.
Okay.
No, tiene un ángel en la mano.
Blank boards, but grips full of cards. That always signals removal or you know, anything other than threats.
Sure.
Looks like it's
Sí, ya sé.
And yet another Borderland Ranger.
Otro negro para. Sí.
He looks like he had to sever the bloodline to get the 2 other Borderland Rangers off the table so he could cast one of his own.
okay, yeah. First things first, right?
This is Borderland Ranger the format.
It is. Mike Flores rejoice.
If only there were Civic Wayfinders, so you could just play 8. I wonder what the correct number of Borderland Rangers to play in this format would be. Depends on the deck, obviously.
That's a good question.
I mean, you kind of always want a Restoration Angel if you're in one of those decks.
Sure.
El swamp ya lo bajó.
Especially if you're building up to a big bonfire.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, every deck can make use of an abundance of mana in this
Yeah.
format.
And, you know, that's actually something that we saw at Pro Tour Iverson Restored and is still here today is that ramp has taken. Now, there's not a big ramp deck available. You know, we're not seeing these decks that are trying to do like 6 drops on turn 4 or something like that, you know, with great consistency. But people are playing almost all the ramps that they have available to them. We're seeing things like Avacyn's Pilgrim, and we're seeing things like Scorn Villager as well as on one of the lists, which can bump your mana up in a hurry.
And at the Pro Tour, we actually saw a fair amount of Dawn Treader Elk.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes you want to attack for 2.
That was in that green Fight Club deck that BDM likes so much.
Right. And I mean, the downside to cards like Scorn Villager and Avacyn's Pilgrim is they're vulnerable to Bonfire of the Damned, which is one of the format's defining cards.
Absolutely.
You don't really want to make Bonfire for 1 live for your opponent if you can help it. Now, sometimes it's going to be worth it anyway, but you can circumvent that entirely by making all your mana acceleration in the
当期
form
打
of
架都知道
lands.
所以我没有先下。
On the other table, the standard table,
Yeah.
Begali and Yang, they're
Yeah.
tied up at 1-1, so they're going to hold that for us so we can
Yeah.
make sure to catch you
Yeah.
in that one.
对，我知
At the
道。
moment, we have a Borderland Ranger facing down a Wolfer Silverheart. Now, the Wolfer Silverheart is not paired to anything,
15比
so it's just a 4-4.
我剩15。
It's just a 4.
It's only a mere 4-4. But you have to respect it, because any creature that comes down can instantly hit, make it into an 8-8, and next thing you know,
Yeah.
you're getting battled on
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
for a whole lot.
You could just be a true boss and just cast another Wolfer Silverheart and attack for 1,000,000 damage. Now, you probably don't want to do that because Sever the Bloodlines in a graveyard. But
I kind of like it.
it's 24 power worth of guys. So
There's another Sever the Bloodline.
Wow.
不是，你 remove again。
Get in there for 2.
Yeah.
And that's going to drop Terry down to
15?
13.
14.
you know, it makes sense
30,
because
yeah.
this format's all about value that you'd want to bring in Sever the Bloodline. I mean, you want a 2-for-1 your opponent and maybe get even more than that. But it is
It
kind
is,
of counterintuitive that Sever the Bloodline is such an important player in this matchup,
Hey.
given that they all play the exact same card.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is kind of funny. All right, so we do in fact see the second Wolfer Silverheart, bide its time. Now, Martin, he's sitting
Shout
at
out.
6
Yes,
mana.
out.
He's 1 away from flashing back those
Right.
Sever the Bloodlines. If he hits a land here, then we're going to definitely see. I'm pretty sure we're going to see that Wolfer Silverheart fight it. Now, the
Yeah.
Kessig Wolf on the 1-of comes down again on Terry's side of the board, making that Wolfer Silverheart very scary even without another creature.
I'm just looking at this board. There's a colorless land and a basic land of 4 different types on Cheng's side of the board.
That's pretty
And,
awesome.
you got a crazy format when
Yeah.
mana bases look like that.
Yeah.
Now, interestingly, Cheng also has a Sever the Bloodline in his hand, but it seems like he doesn't want to use it on a simple 2/2 creature when he can take 6 or 7 hits from Borderland
就
Ranger,
有什么会干嘛？
saving it for something a little bit juicier.
Now, he's also got 7 mana already, so he can flash that back, the turn after.
I wonder if you might, even though Borderland Ranger is only a 2/2, casting it on Borderland Ranger wouldn't be the worst idea just because of Falcon Wrath Aristocrat. If Aristocrat's on the table, he's going to take 6. All of a sudden, sacking Ranger
他就问这个了。
makes it, indestructible. And you're not going to be able to sever the bloodline, getting value with Aristocrat on the table because you always just sack it in response.
Right.
And even if you use it on the Aristocrat itself, you've taken 4 damage already.
Right. Okay, we had a judge ruling there. I think it was like an oracle question. Basically, you can ask the judge anytime you want to tell you the text on a card if you're confused. If it's not in your language or if you're just not if you don't have it in your hand or your deck. Tragic Slip. Now that's an answer, or is it?
I think so what he really wants to happen is for Castillo to sack Borderland Ranger in response because Tragic Slip was still killing. Pretty trippy interaction. Oh, and we see yet
Hey,
another
Tragic Slip and another Tragic Slip, and he just says go because he was already in his attack step when all that went down. Bonfire you. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So lose your guy, take 6 damage, drop you to 8.
All things considered, one of the less devastating bonfires we've seen.
That is
to be
true,
perfectly
although
honest.
you're not going to turn it down.
Oh yeah, you're
but
certainly
you're
going to do
totally
it. I'll kill your guy and deal you 6. I can deal with that.
So he keeps a land in his hand. I'm not really sure why, but he also has a Zealous Conscripts. This is Martin from Uruguay here. And cycle something with abundant and more mana. So
So he's got to hope that Cheng is, just plays a big threat so he can hit him with conscripts. Now, what's interesting about Avacyn's Pilgrim right here is
Double
it might actually
conscripts
be, that is conscripts mountain.
what were you going to say there, Zach?
Oh, I was going to say, in many ways, Avacyn's Pilgrim is just the optimal card to have right now.
It's a huge threat because of the Kessig Wolf run.
Exactly, and it can't get hit with Zealous conscripts in any sort of meaningful way.
Right. Right now it can hit for 5 damage if he taps out and doesn't have another land drop. which is pretty impressive for a little pilgrim.
Yeah, right. And pretty good when your opponent's at 14. That's a pretty quick clock.
And I think he might be at 8.
Oh, okay.
Because didn't he get bonfired for 6?
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely
I
right.
don't know if that was
just
the
hasn't
first
been
damage
recorded
tick
yet.
Yeah, he is.
All
We
right.
confirmed that he's actually at 8 life here. So a 2-turn clock as the board sits.
So I think maybe what you want to do as Castillo is just cast Zealous Conscripts and, like, you know, battle for one with the Pilgrim or whatever. Have a guy back to block so that the Kessig Wolf run isn't lethal. Oh, I guess it's one short of being lethal anyway. So you attack with the conscripts and that might lure Ching into thinking, okay, the way is safe to cast a big threat right now, and he's been sandbagging the conscripts just to try and get something better.
Okay.
That might make Ching feel comfortable playing a bigger threat, at which point the second conscripts could hit the table and end the game.
Okay.
So I could see, yeah, and that,
I mean, he's
it
in a
turns out
fine
that's
spot.
what Castillo
You know,
does.
Martin's sitting at 8, and he can only take 5, at the most 6, you know, if a land comes down. So he's not dying next turn without, you know, a few different things happening.
And at some point, you've got to attack.
You can't sit there forever.
Your opponent's
Steal
at 13.
this, bash him for 4.
Right, exactly.
I like that.
I do too. Hey, like, you
Oh, he
want to
says
make your
wait.
own bonfires live.
Whoa, you can't take it back now.
His hands was still on it. I don't know.
Well, the judge is being called.
Oh, okay.
No, actually,
Okay, looks like we have a dispute
So
here.
there's a dispute about whether he actually went into his attack step or not. And, you know, there's always this fine line. You want to be very, very clear with your actions. This is a little bit ambiguous, so they're going to probably get a judge involved to kind of interpret the situation.
And that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah. Now, I think isn't it better for him to attack with the conscripts?
Uh,
He's not dead on the back.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on what he's playing around. He might be thinking of something that I'm not thinking
Yeah,
about.
that's true.
I certainly would attack with the conscripts.
Yeah.
I like to get in the red zone.
I do too. So he can get in there for 6 right now, but Martin's still going to have to come up with something to kill that creature.
And 8 is a very, or 9 is a very awkward life total on Terry Ching's side, because the next conscripts plus the Pilgrim plus his current conscripts is still only 7 points of damage. So he's far away from lethal even right now.
Yeah, he's going to need a Pillar Flame, which I don't think he's running. But this does make an interesting situation, because if Terry casts something that has 3 power, 2 power, whatever, then it's good. Oh, you still got 1 more mana. Oh, he's only doing it for 4, so 5 damage.
And it makes sense why Castillo wanted to leave the conscripts back, because now even if he plays a conscripts, he can't kill Ching. And he'd have to double block with the conscripts in order to stay alive.
I see. I see.
As
So he was
opposed to only
hoping
having to lose a single conscript.
We're doing a little discussing. This is part of team play, is that your teammates can help you out. They can give you advice. And this is also one of the, I don't know if you guys can get a sense for the tension that's happening. This is a big pressure moment for this team, and the teammates are having a heated discussion about what the correct play is. You know, this is where it gets tough. I mean, you know, like, it's really hard for us to imagine sitting in our nice booth over here, the kind of pressure that they're under. And when you have somebody telling you something and you see something else, it can get frustrating, and you can, you know, have a tough time kind of parsing through what you need to do. And that's what's happening right now.
And it's also just, you know, very challenging to have someone watching you play Magic. I mean, it's really nerve-wracking. You know you're under scrutiny, and they're not always thinking about the game the same way you are.
All right, so something died.
I believe that was a flashbacked Sever the Bloodline on Addison's Pilgrim.
And hit you for 3?
Right.
Okay. So if he plays some big creature here,
that's game.
Then that's game.
For Castillo.
Yes, for Castillo, because what he can do is just steal it.
Yeah, for sure.
That's not going to happen. He says, yeah, for sure. I like that. But Martin does have him on a 2-turn clock here, just with the... oh, he's going to cycle this first. If he can get a creature with 3 power or more that he can get paid. The tree! The tree of redemption.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, so he's going to play an 0-13, so that pretty much takes out anything relevant as far as the Kessig Wolf run goes. Would you just... Ooh, Restoration Angel.
Yeah, sure.
That is going to be the game, I believe.
Yeah. If Castillo's infected 3,
We're
he's
showing
got
him at
Castillo.
3, and he extends the hand. It was a flyer that ended up getting him. He didn't have any other play there because the tree's an 0-13 on the ground, and even if he had gone for the aggressive route of playing his other conscripts and attacking and put him on a 1-turn clock to draw something, still would have been on the ground and tapped, and he would have died.
And it would have walked right into a 3-4 range.
That's another good point. That's true. Although that would have been an interesting block situation there, but yeah.
Oh, sure, yeah. Maybe you just don't block, or I don't care. I'll just kill you on the counterattack. And the thing is, like, if you're Castillo, Restoration Angel kills you anyway, so you can't really meaningfully play around it.
Exactly.
It's already going to beat you. Who cares if it blocks your guy, you know?
All right, I've got some numbers here, courtesy of our own Nate Price, one of our coverage writers here.
Numbers are very exciting.
Yeah, I'll talk about this when we get to the next round, actually, because I think it'll be more pertinent as that was the match there. Now, we're going over to the standard portion,
I don't mind.
I believe. And we're going to be seeing, let's see what decks, I actually have deck lists again. These are courtesy of Nate Price. So, Chinese Taipei, they are playing Black-Red Zombies. So that's on the left, and you can see that already with the Diagraph Ghoul coming in. And it looks like Wolf Run Blue on the right-hand side. This is a sweet deck that's come out recently. I'm a big fan of this deck. It runs Temporal Mastery.
Temporal Mastery and Ponder.
Yeah, Temporal Mastery and Ponder in a ramp shell. So this deck has usually 4 Rampant Growth, sometimes or often 4 Farseek. So it's got that nice package, and then some number of Solemn Simulacrums, often 4 as well, so that you can hit the turn 4 Titan as often as possible.
Precisely. And it's an even more streamlined game plan than the Wolf Run Red decks that we've seen a lot of. You're giving up a number of colorless lands, notably the full amount of Glimmer Posts and Castle Wolf Runs usually, although it looks like in this case maybe not.
Yeah, no, this deck has all 4 Glimmer Posts for sure. Now, what it does give up, though, often is some number of Ink Moth Nexuses and or Wolf Runs, which makes it a little more fragile, but still very effective. And plus, it can just beat you with big... Okay, now that's a Snapcaster Mage. That is a one-of, I believe, in the deck. I'm going to take a look at the deck list right now, but in the version that I've been running online, which, you know, I think Reed Duke was the one that kind of got that going.
Yeah, I think he won a major tournament with it. Really the first high-profile finish of the deck.
Yeah, he... he's got 2 in there, so that was one of 2. This does have the cards I mentioned as where it's got 4 Farseek, 4 Rampant Growth, and 2 Solemn Simulacrums.
Sure. And unlike some of the red-green builds we've highlighted, only 2 copies of Cavern of Souls instead of the full 4, which makes you a little bit softer to Mana Leak.
So, all right, so we've got a Mortar Pod coming down, which is going to take out the Snapcaster Mage.
Now, we're getting reports that Chinese Taipei has actually won the entire match. I mean, as we watched happen on the screen, so they're deciding to show our pretty faces.
I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. That's Zac Hill with a pretty face. Okay, so this match that we were just watching actually didn't affect the outcome overall. Okay, so that's why we're back in here. Yeah. All right, so it looks like we're going to be able to send it over to the news desk, and then when we come back, we're going to have another round just like this of Constructed. We're going to have Block, Modern, and Standard for us to go over again. I've got a whole lot of information for us to go over, too. It's going to help us kind of parse through what people are playing today. It's going to be fun. But for now, why don't we send it back over to the news desk, and yeah, we'll see you in a little bit.
So, you see, the Magic World Cup, it isn't quite like any other event you see in the world of Magic. Normally what happens, 2-0 to someone, the third team, they just shrug, they go, no, oh well, I've lost, we've won, no point in playing Magic anymore. You see at the end there, Chinese Taipei and Uruguay, they wanted to play that match. You've seen that all weekend long. You've seen Greece say, we're going to play against the USA. We're here to play Magic. You've seen Andy Morrison, the captain of the Scotland team. They were 2-0 against Spain. He didn't get to finish his match. They were already 2-0 in the second round of the day. And he said to his opponent from Hungary, he said, listen, I'd really like to play this match out. Do you mind? and they went, that's cool, let's just play some Magic. The match was already over. They wanted to take it all the way. Honourable, well done them, but I'm sure you can appreciate we pull away from the matches that don't matter to bring you the news of the matches that do. So let's take a look at the 4 pools that we have here in the afternoon, the second afternoon of the World Magic Cup, and let us begin with pool number 1. That features Croatia, the Philippines, Finland, and Portugal. And you can see there that the Philippines have been victorious. They have a win to their name. And Portugal, therefore, because they are the bottom seed, they are really behind the 8 ball, because at 0 and 1, they need their tie breaks to hold up, which will not be good. Remember, it is done by seeding. Meanwhile, on that graphic, you see Croatia and Finland, that result not yet in, but I can tell you, by a man who doesn't look terribly happy from Croatia off to my left, that Croatia have in fact lost their first round. The good news for them, they're the number 1 seed in the pool, and that means 2 more wins will certainly see them into day 3 action. Let's take you to pool number 2 and let's see what we've got in store there. Wow, United States against Hungary, that was the matchup, and Hungary with Thomas Nug, the national champion, leading the way, Tamas Gayed leading the way in terms of points this weekend. They have taken down another powerhouse. Spoke with Joe Panacchio, who's been having a tremendous weekend for Team America, but not this time around. So the United States 0-1, but again, because they are a high seed, 2-1 will get them through. So all is not lost for Team America fans. Now, what about Pool 3? Scotland and Poland, they are still going, but Estonia against Slovenia. Estonia, you know, the more rounds we play, the more that team starts coming under the spotlight, because I've got to tell you that Tavi Ludvi, Hannes Karen, the 2008 World's top 8 competitor, and Oliver Ox, who's played Magic in every corner of the globe, they are no mugs, and they're showing it here. They've defeated Slovenia by virtue of being second seed. They will only need a win in one of the next 2 matches to guarantee their place in the top 8. And finally, pool number 4, and again, a big result. You know, the Slovak Republic, every time we see them up at the top of the standings, and then there's this tiny little stumble. You saw at the end of day 1, in the last round, they only managed to add 3 points to their total, took them down the seeding list a little. Today, they made things difficult for themselves with that opening draw against Poland. It came down to that final match against the Dominican Republic, and that meant that they snuck in at the very end of pool play in Team Limited. Now here in Team Constructed, again, they put themselves behind the 8 ball after that loss to Ukraine. Alexander Onosov and friends, they are in the box seat there, with France and Puerto Rico still playing. Slovak Republic will need 2 wins almost certainly to make it in. So that's where we are right now in terms of pool play. What we're going to do is we're going to take you across to the video wall, and Brian David Marshall has with him, I'm going to have a go at Stjepan Susic. And we'll find out how close that is in just a moment. It's time for another World Magic Cup Deck Tech.
Hi everybody, this is Brian David Marshall coming to you from the Tournament Center at the World Magic Cup here at Gen Con in Indianapolis. I am here with, and you're going to have to tell me if I do a better job than Rich here, Stjepan Susic from Croatia.
It was great.
Did I do better than Rich? That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Awesome. You guys came to this tournament. We're going to talk about your standard deck. You're playing that right now in pool play here in Team Constructed. A lot of people were playing it very safe and standard on day 1 in individual play. You know, people were talking about Delver, they're talking about ramp decks, they're talking about zombie decks. You guys ended up playing, I don't even know how many of you played it, the Mono Green Effect, 3 of you. Mono Green Effect, what made you guys play this deck?
Well, honestly, we never had an intention to play the deck. So I came here with Naya Pod. Tony came with Ram. Gregor wasn't sure. He was like leaning to zombies. And one point we were driving in a bus and we decided we'll test out the monogreen effect. We heard it might be decent. And we were really bored. And we drew a sketch of all relevant matchups. And we just made we called it a metagame analysis, but it was really more or less of a joke. And we just looked at the infect matchups and we decided it has no real bad matchups. And we decided we'll test it out on a bus because the ride from our hotel to the site took an hour. So we tested it out on the bus and it never lost a single game. And suddenly we were all playing infect.
Wonderful. All right, well, and it paid off for you guys. You guys ended up being what seed were you at the end of day one?
We were first seed.
You were the first seed, and that was a result of multiple 4-0 finishes in standard.
Two 4-0 finishes for me and Gregor. Tony ended 2-2, but his luck was down that day.
Sure. So let's go up to the board here
Sure.
and take a look at the deck. First thing that you get in an infect deck is the creatures with infect. 4 Glistener Elf, 4 Ichor and 1 Blight Mamba.
Yeah. One Blight Mamba is here because of the Green Sun Zeniths, and its regeneration can be relevant against Bonfire and stuff. Our Chromir is the best creature card in the deck because he with Rancor is practically unblockable, and Glistener Elf is basically the worst card in the deck. It's funny, but it's true. He becomes great with either Cathedral of War or Rancor, or the best combination is both of those.
Right. He's not very good, but when he's the right guy, he's awesome. So let's look. You have another little creature package. You mentioned Green Sun Zenith. So we have a little bit of a Zenith package. Blight Mamba, I guess, is in with that as a creature you can go for. Let's go to the next slide, and we see 2 Green Sun Zenith and a Viridian Corruptor main deck.
Yeah. Well, Viridian Corruptor was there because of the pod decks, and the other reason is because we didn't want to have all the creatures have 1 toughness in the deck, because we wanted to have an out when the opponent has Curse in play, Curse of Death's Hold.
Oh, sure.
And basically you want something in the deck that you can fetch up if you have extra mana. So it's always better to have 2/2 guy than 1/1 guy.
So it's really 12 creatures and 2 Zeniths in the deck.
Well, yeah, you need to count the Intimate Nexus, which is basically the best creature in the deck.
Sure. Oh, okay. Good point. So let's go to the next package, and this is the big package. 16 ways to pump your infect creatures, starting with Mutagenic Growth.
Of course, Mutagenic Growth is the best pump spell. You need no mana for it, and it is the best play because when you have turn 3, Wild Defiance, any Mutagenic Growth really blows opponents out. If you have already creature with Rancor up, it's basically game over. Many people don't play 4 of Titanic Growths.
Right, I see a lot of Ranger's Guile.
Yeah, Ranger's Guile, it was something like Titanic Growth versus Ranger's Guile or a split, but Ranger's Guile doesn't really do anything if you don't have all Defiance.
Sure.
If you want to defend against Gutshot, you want Mutagenic Growth. If you want to defend against Vapor Snake, you want either Blessing or Mental Misstep.
Right, and this is, I mean, that's half their life right there, right?
Yeah,
if you get in with a hit with a Titanic Growth, you're doing 5 infect on your guy.
That's basically a game win spell most of the time, because with Rancor they'll usually champ your creature even though you have Rancor. So this saves your guy, splits their life in half, and really a great card.
Wild Defiance. This card, I watched you play. I mean, you won this game.
Yeah.
It was kind of like you said, the deck doesn't mulligan terribly well. You seemed really glum with your hand.
It wasn't really great.
You played a turn 2 creature, you played a turn 3 Wild Defiance, and then a turn later you had just won.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I've seen my opponent, he didn't have multiple Gutshots or Vapor Snakes, and I had a Mental Misstep, so I could go all in on the Wild Defiance. And
right, once you resolve this, Gutshot's kind of a dead card.
Well, it's a dead card against me, but my Gutshots suddenly became much better.
Right, suddenly your Gutshots move into this pump slide.
Of course.
And finally Rancor printed again in M13. This card just means you get to you don't even care about making them evade. You can just trample over whatever they put in the way.
If you put it on a regular creature, it's a great card. If you put it on a Nexus, it's basically a Bone Splitter. So
right. Yeah, it's +4/+0 when you're talking about infect damage too.
course.
So, all right, let's go to the next package. You have a sort of a little Phyrexian control package.
Yeah, that's why we call the deck 5-color control.
Okay, we called it mono green infect, but it's secretly 5-color control. Okay, Apostle's Blessing, 4 copies of this card.
Yeah, it's a very important card because you need to protect your creatures, and with Wild Defiance it's also a pump, and there is no better card to really give that protection. And it also gives protection from artifacts, which can be relevant sometimes.
So for 1 mana and 2 life, you basically are able to get your creature, you know, you have a counter spell, you have a falter.
I mean, it's either making my creatures unblockable or it's saving them from removal. And either of those is very, very important.
Right. Gutshot, you said with Wild Defiance, this becomes a giant growth for you, but generally what's that in there for?
Well, some people would think it's because of the Delver, but we actually side it out against Delvers. It's there to kill mana guys and sometimes images or just finish creatures. Like if they have creature that can jump, so you can, or theoretically you can, when you have a creature with Rancor, you can shoot their creature for 1 more damage to them. And
sure. Oh, that's interesting. And also, I mean, you'll see people will plan on like getting 2 turns of chump blocking, right?
Yeah, of course.
So I saw like an Augur of Bolus across the table from you, took 2 infect damage, and he plans to get another turn of blocking in, and you're like, no.
Of course.
Yeah. And then Mental Misstep, this card is anti-Vapor Snag almost exclusively?
Sometimes Gutshot, but basically you just counter Vapor Snag, and sometimes if you have a slower hand, you want to counter turn 1 Delver. I mean, many people don't play it main board, they play it sideboard, but I think this card actually net us the most of the wins because you need to counter Fume Spitters against zombies. It's very, very crucial to counter that card and several other cards. So yeah, Mental Misstep is definitely main board material.
Yeah, main deck, that's kind of like big news in terms of this deck. I think no Ranger's Guile, main deck, Mental Missteps, and 4 copies of Apostle's Blessing all seem very exciting. Let's take a look at the land package. So this is the balance of the deck. 13 forests, whatever. We know what they do.
Yeah.
This is a card that not a lot of people were talking about.
Yeah.
Cathedral of War.
The thing is, most of the people when they're speaking about Infect in M13, they were all about Rancor, and Rancor was really the big card for the deck. But we decided that Cathedral of War is actually the biggest reinforcements for the deck because it makes your 1/1 guys attack for 2. When you don't have any other action going. So when you play against Delver, which was a bad matchup before, you couldn't attack for 2 without spending any pump spells and other stuff. Now you can just go for 2 and make them try to race you back.
All right, and your opponent can decide to put just an untransformed Delver in the way of your Glistener because it's like they don't have a lot of threats.
Yeah,
I just want to just get their creatures off the board, and this makes it really difficult.
Delver is basically a race now. And with this, you can race.
That's fantastic. And then you said Inkmoth Nexus is the best creature in the deck?
Yes, of course. It's the best creature because it has evasion, and basically it's immune to every mass removal. And well, best opening hands are with Inkmoth Nexus, not with Glistener. Also, Icochrome Mirrors. And the only bad thing about Nexus now is the Cathedral of War comes into play tapped. And that's the only thing.
So you activate you have a Wild Defiance in play, you activate your Inkmoth Nexus.
Yeah.
What is a lethal hand for your Inkmoth Nexus now? Your Inkmoth Nexus is attacking. We don't even have a Cathedral one, we just have the Wild Defiance. Your opponent has 0 poison, you're attacking them with the Inkmoth. What happens?
Well, basically, if you have Wild Defiance on the table, and if you have Wild Defiance, you have 2 mana on the table, of course, and you have at least 1 green. So basically, any Phyrexian spell, aside Mental Misstep, that means either Blessing or the Mutagenic Growth. Mutagenic Growth is obviously the best, but you usually just start off with the most expensive spell, that is Titanic Growth, if you have it. And if they don't counter it, don't try to kill your creature in response, then you usually don't go to overextend if you don't know what opponent has in hand. But if you know the opponent has no action or he stepped out, you just play Gutshot on your land or Mutagenic on your land, or even if he tries to kill it in response, you have Blessing in response, and then he goes to like.
Okay. Yeah. So we're going to want to get you back out to your round, so let's power through your sideboard. Let's just take a look. Another mental misstep.
That's for Delver.
Three spell skites.
Three spell skites are for different matchups, but basically they're in for the zombies matchup because it's very important to counter their fume spitters and.
Fume Spitter seems to be a card you're paying a lot of attention to.
Yeah, Fume Spitter is horrible because you can't really fight against it. Against Gotshot you can pump your guy in response, but Fume Spitter just leaves
it's a permanent counter. Viridian Corruptor, three more.
Viridian Corruptor against all pod decks, basically, and against Ramp because Ramp now plays those artifacts for.
And then let's take a look at the last set of cards. Blight Mamba, one more.
That was the 15th card in the deck. We were arguing about it. I was playing Blight Mamba, other guys played Withstand that, but it's basically against Ramp and against decks that have a lot of mass removals. And we had nothing to board in against Ramp except that.
Four Dismember and 2 Beasts Within, I think we understand. Malaria Sylvok Outcast?
We want to Green Sun Zenith for the Malaria so that we kill the opponents because of the legendary rule. It's basically our kill for the opposing
That's
Malarias.
awesome. So if someone brings that in against you, you want to be able to legend it out with the Zenith. Awesome. So I'm going to let you get back to your round. Hang out for 2 more seconds. We're going to throw it back to Rich. But for Stepan Suchik, this is Brian David Marshall signing off from the Tournament Center. I'm so sorry.